Now, the case against murder-accused Flavio Hlabangwane is set to resume on the 3rd of December. Proceedings were halted after Hlabangwane's legal counsel indicated there were financial issues. He will now have to wait until Friday to have the application for his mental evaluation submitted. You'll recall body parts were found in Hlabangwane's fridge in Protea Glen earlier this month. Our reporter Silindelo Masikane has been monitoring proceedings in the Protea Magistrate Court earlier today, and she's joining us now in the studio here in Hyde Park. Silindelo, good afternoon. So I understand, of course, this case, like many other similar cases where you've had victims who are women who've been brutally murdered. You had anti-GBV groups in court today in this case, and quite rightly so, many people will say. But what did they tell you?
Yeah, I mean, quite a brief appearance in the Protea Magistrates Court today, Bradan, where we were expecting for Flavio Hlabangwane to actually make an application for a psychiatric evaluation. However, when we got to court, his lawyer then indicated to the magistrates that Flavio's family actually needed a little bit more time to secure funding, saying that actually Hlabangwane's phone was not in their possession and that the funds were actually with him, so he needs to actually get possession of that phone to be able to transfer the funds to one of his relatives so that they may be able to pay his legal fees. And so his lawyer then asked the magistrate for a postponement for later this week, where that psychiatric evaluation application will then be made. But in the gallery, we did see family members from Hlabangwane's family as well as anti-GBV groups coming to support what is allegedly known at this moment to be the family of the deceased. I have to point out, Bradan, that at this point we still don't know the identity of the limbs, should I say, that have been found, because police are also still trying to locate the torso of this body. But a family has come forward. They were in court today claiming that they believe that the limbs that were found are of their child. In fact, the father, the man claiming to be the father, was actually in court, and I believe had a moment with Hlabangwane in the holding cells as well. So we understand that DNA tests still need to be done, but of course the anti-GBV group saying that as much as we focus on COVID-19 as a pandemic, it doesn't seem as though gender-based violence gets the same attention, even though the president has declared it a pandemic as well. Let's take a listen.
Where we are as a country in South Africa, we need education. As Wanele Foundation, we can't stress this more than enough, that education is needed from the grassroots. We need to unlearn that which we thought was normal when our parents were growing up, you know, because it starts by things that someone says. And we tend to overlook that and think, no, it's okay, he said it and so what. And the Begazela syndrome, we need to unlearn that as women. But where we are as a country, I feel the country personally is failing us when it comes to issues of gender-based violence and femicide. And the reason why I say that is because so much resources and finances have been thrown our way with regards to COVID-19 as a pandemic. Yes, people are dying from COVID-19 because it is a pandemic, but why are resources not thrown our way when it comes to issues of gender-based violence and femicide? Because if you go to the most poorest locations right now, everybody there knows that you need to wear a mask, you need to sanitize, you need to social distance. But when you talk about gender-based violence and femicide, if such resources could be thrown and amplified the same way it is with COVID-19, then even people in the most purest, in the ground root, would understand what no means, and they would understand the repercussions of what gender-based violence and femicide has.
Silindelo, you say earlier, the authorities are still going through with the investigation about the victim in terms of DNA. But of course, there's a family that suspects it's their child or their daughter. But any new information that the state may have around about the identity of the victim?
Not at this point, because we're still trying to actually identify the limbs of this person that was found in the fridge of Flavio Hlabangwane. And you remember a couple of days after the discovery of the limbs in the fridge that a skull was found at a nearby road not too far from Hlabangwane's house. But like I said, that there's a family that really believes that this is their child. Swabs will now be taken for DNA testing from this man that's come forward. and we don't know when these results are going to be, but we did try to speak to the family. At this point, they're not prepared to say anything because investigations as to whether they actually are the victim's family are still underway. But the NPA saying that these investigations continue and that they will be awaiting the test results after the DNA swabs have been taken from the man that's come forward. Let's take a listen.
From our side as the state, DNA tests were conducted and those results are not yet back. So we're still waiting for the DNA results as the state, and therefore the identity of the deceased has not yet been concluded. Well, it's difficult to say as the NPA when the results will be ready. We depend on our stakeholders, the Department of Health and their specialists, to assist us in that regard. And as soon as the results are obviously released, we'll have to first consult with the family members. They are the first people who must know as soon as those results are released. And thereafter, the public at large will also be informed.
There you have that message loud and clear from the anti-GBV people who were also there in this case. We will fight. We must fight. Hashtag enough is enough. And we've heard these words for quite some time, but this is one of those many cases that we've been covering in terms of gender-based violence. Now, Friday is the next date that's been set for court, and it's going to be about an application for psychiatric evaluation.
Yes, and that is coming from Hlabangwane's defense, his lawyer, saying they do want him to be taken for psychiatric evaluation. We know that these evaluations, Bradan, take about 30 days. So if his application is successful, then we'll certainly see this matter resuming sometime next year.